Sí, yo no dormí hoy. Yeah.
Good evening, folks. Can I get everybody's attention?
Evening.
Thank you all for joining us this evening for our public hearing. I am Sarah Davis. For those of you that do not know me yet, I am the Executive Director for the Seneca County IDA. I will be facilitating this evening's public hearing. I would like to acknowledge our staff who is here assisting with live streaming and note taking, and then also we do have some IDA board members in the room. I figured I should call them out so you guys are all aware. Supervisor Heisen serves on our board, and obviously Supervisor for the town of Eric, he's here this evening. Marie Weiss, Ralph Lott, and Ben Guthrie are also here. So thank you to everybody for coming out. The way that I would like to start this is I'm going to read through our public hearing notice. This is a procedure we do at all of our hearings just to kick it off. And then I'm going to invite a representative from the company up here to talk a little bit about the project first, and then we can open up the floor after that for comments and questions from everybody. If anybody has not received a copy and would like to, we do have copies here of the application, which also includes the cost benefit analysis for this project. And we have blank sheets up here for anybody that would like to provide a written comment this evening. With that being said, we are going to get started. So notice is hereby given that a public hearing pursuant to Article 18A of the New York State General Municipal Law will be held by the Seneca County Industrial Development Agency on the 12th day of August 2026 at 5:30 p.m. local time at the Romulus Town Hall, 1435 Prospect Street, Willard, New York, in connection with the following matters. Seneca Dairy Systems LLC, a New York limited liability company, for itself or on behalf of an entity to be formed by it or on its behalf, has submitted an application, a copy of which is on file with the agency, requesting the agency's assistance with respect to a certain project consisting of: 1, the acquisition of land of approximately 75 acres. They already own the land, for the record. At 1640 Deerhaven Parkway, Town of Romulus. 2, the construction on the land of an approximately 2 megawatt solar energy generation facility and an approximately 7.25 megawatt battery energy storage system and related amenities. And 3, the acquisition and installation by the company in and around the improvements of certain items of equipment and other tangible personal property. The initial owner of the facility will be the company. The agency will acquire a leasehold interest in the facility from the company and lease the facility back to the company. At the end of the lease term, the agency will terminate its leasehold interest. The agency contemplates it will provide financial assistance to the company in the form of exemptions from sales and use taxes and abatement of property taxes. Representative of the agency, that's us, will at the above stated time and place hear and accept written comments from all persons with views in favor of or opposed to either the proposed financial assistance to the company or the location or nature of the facility. Copy of the application for financial assistance filed by the company with the agency, including an analysis of the costs and benefits of the proposed facility, is available for public inspection at our IDA offices and online on our website. With that, I'm going to officially call this public hearing to order. I would like to introduce Steve Clemenson from Seneca Dairy Systems and invite him to come stand or wherever he's comfortable and talk a little bit about the project.
So nice to meet everyone. I'm Steve Clemenson, Vice President of Operations at Seneca Dairy Systems, going on 12 years, so I've been around for a while here. So as you know, Earl and Lee, bought the property, the depot in 2016, 2017, with plans to expand manufacturing operations because we were kind of breaking the seams at Seneca Falls, and we didn't have enough power actually, so we came out here. Since then, we've done the best we can with doing what we said we were going to do and sticking to the plan, continuing to expand, which is continuing still. One of the things that's been a hang up is, and I don't know how much detail I'm going to give, but I thought it was good to kind of give the background. As part of the original plans was our galvanizing operation, which is still not running because we don't have natural gas. So up until like about 2 years ago, we started this conversation with trying to maybe convert to electric. Which is when we started kind of getting our feet wet, looking into different solar options and things of that nature. And saying it was, I think in middle of last year, we kind of made the decision we're going to move forward. We started the process, the procurement, the engineering, all that fun stuff. And here we are, I guess, today, where we're gonna try to put the system in to basically support our galvanizing and, manufacturing operations, continue expansions, hiring people, the whole nine, just like we planned from the beginning. And I didn't even think we had to do this. I thought we could just amend it because it's already on the same property that we already have a pilot, but they said this is the way to do it.
So just to add to that, our procedure, for those of you that may not be aware, and just to clarify a little, because I know the depot is a big property and there's a lot that has happened there over the years. So the property that we are discussing today is approximately 75 acres around where the galvanizing plant is. The remainder of the property at the depot that is owned by Mr. Martin and his companies is on the tax roll. So only this particular parcel is subject to a pilot exemption that was granted in 2019, I believe. Right?
Yeah.
For the galvanizing plant. That is a 3-phased development project that went through the seeker process and was approved for incentives back in 2019. Plant was constructed. There have been delays in getting an extension of a gas franchise with NYSEG in order to connect the plant to natural gas to begin galvanizing operations. And then in that time, it's been essentially 6 years, 5 years maybe since the plant was finished construction. In that time, they have been having manufacturing operations out there, but still no galvanizing. And so since then, the company has sort of pivoted to eventually move to electrification of that plant. And as part of that is looking to construct this facility to help control some of those energy costs and to help power the plant going forward. So that is sort of an overview of this project as it has been presented to us. I will open up the floor at this point for questions or comments. We're happy to take any and all of them. And as far as questions go, we will do our best to answer them. And if we do not have an answer tonight, we will make sure to take your information and get back to you with the answer to your question. So is there anybody that would like to go first?
This is 75 acres.
Yes.
When Mr. Martin looked at that whole property and he was thinking of moving his galvanizing plant, he knew there was no gas, there was no electricity to do that.
Okay.
According to what I'm reading, he wants exemptions.
This property is already tax exempt. It's already under a pilot agreement. So he pays, based on a schedule that was negotiated when his project was approved, he pays a pilot payment to the IDA that then distributes that to the town, the county, and the school district. So they all get their allocation based on that year's current tax rates. So payments are being made, but technically the property is already tax exempt. What is being proposed tonight is a payment schedule that pertains to the solar and battery facility. So nothing is being reduced in the payments that are already being made to the taxing jurisdictions. This is essentially a separate additional payment that would be made every year as a result of this construction.
How many years is this tax exemption?
This is 12 years.
12 years.
And the current one would expire when?
Depends on the phase, when the phase of each part of the project kicks in. Do you have the schedule right off the bat? So phase one began with 2022 town and county tax and 2021-22 school tax. That was 12 years for phase one, at which point then there is a set amount that will be paid out for that portion of the project for the remainder of the pilot duration. So there's overlap between these. Phase 2 was to be determined. That took effect with the 2026 town and county tax year. So 25-26 school tax year. That is a 12-year schedule. Phase 3 has not begun yet in terms of construction. The way we are looking at this solar is essentially like its own separate phase. It would sort of be considered almost like a phase 4, but it comes into effect when the project is constructed and would be there for 12 years, and then a full payment would be made for any remainder of the entire life of the pilot on this property.
So the solar is just for the galvanizing plant
Yes,
on the 75 acre?
yes. It's not the whole 75 acres, it's just the parcel that we're looking at is a 75-acre parcel,
I
yes.
didn't mean to take up the 75.
No, it's,
It would
yep,
be in that 75 range.
yes,
So, tax exemption to build the solar.
Mhm.
And all the material for the solar,
correct.
so that's what is it, 8% sales tax
Yes.
that the state won't get for 12 years?
Actually, all solar projects with that consent thing, it's in New York State.
So the sales tax exemption is not for 12 years. Sales tax exemption is only for the duration of construction and applies to construction materials and equipment or things that already are not tax exempt.
Who monitors that?
They have to report to the state and share all of their reportings and everything with us. But ultimately, the Department of Taxation and Finance is the one responsible for overseeing sales tax payments.
So phase 2 just began a 12-year exemption, right?
Correct?
Phase 3 has not started yet.
No.
Will that be a 12-year exemption as well?
Yes.
So, I mean, is there any limit as to when phase 3 can start? Can phase 3 start in 20 years and then it'll be 12 years from that?
It's a lifetime.
36.
I'd like that.
Let's see. Okay, so in the pilot language, and apologies, because I was not with the IDA when this was originally negotiated. Says, anything herein, to the contrary notwithstanding, in no event shall the term of this pilot agreement extend past December 31st, 2041. So it
even if
cannot,
phase
it
3
cannot go beyond that. If phase 3 gets significantly delayed, you know, and doesn't start until, say, 2035, the pilot ends in 2031 and 2041.
Do you have a feel for when phase 3 may or may not start?
To be honest, I don't even know exactly what phase 3 is. But what I do know is, some of the things that are in motion now, you know, as of right now, is, so to prepare for galvanizing, which hopefully, you know, who knows when that's gonna be, but let's say in the next 12 to 18 months, we have to, so we're using the facility now for welding and other manufacturing operations. We need to make room in our other, you know, so we have two basic 60,000 square foot buildings. They're both fully being, you know, used right now. So we gotta make room to move those people into a different area so that we can actually galvanize someday. So I know that we have plans right now for a 30,000 square foot building, a 300,000 square foot warehouse, and then, you know, another 60,000 square foot building, which is kind of, I think, what phase 3 is. So I believe like probably like the first building is gonna be upcoming, like in this next, you know, 6 months. And then like we're, you know, pouring the pad for the warehouse, hopefully this fall, right? So that'll be like soon, right? Then we're planning on starting that.
Another question for you. So the NYSEG alternative for natural gas, that's been abandoned completely?
So no, so we did hire another law firm to work on getting that. I think they did make headway, but we still don't have a gas line.
Yeah.
That
Who
had-
knows,
At the
right?
rate NYSEG works, you won't have a gas light for another 10 years
Exactly,
anyway.
so that's why we're not relying solely on that, right?
That had to go to the Public Service Commission to get approval because the utility cannot determine by themselves whether or not to extend a gas franchise. So the New York State Public Service Commission had to meet, hold hearings on it. My understanding is that they did have a hearing for that and did approve the gas line extension sometime, I think, late last year. But now it's in the phase of the utility has to now design and provide drawings for the system. So there's still probably not until the end of this year, maybe even with drawings, and possibly longer than that.
And I apologize, I should introduce myself. Most of the people here probably know Mike Joslin, town around us. I am concerned and I'm on the board for the town around us. I am concerned for two reasons. I'm concerned as a resident, and I'm concerned as a board member at loss of property tax income to the town.
So there will be no loss of property tax income because this property is not on the tax roll.
No, but it will be eventually, except
Yeah.
if these pilots keep going on and on and on and on. I mean, it's already been a long time, and it's obviously could be another potential 24 years before that comes back on the tax roll. From a personal standpoint, I'm also concerned with, and this is very personal, this is to me and like half a dozen people in town, but I live on Seneca Street. And, you know, there's a lot of people that live there, there's a cemetery that live there, people walk there, their kids play out there. Traffic on that street, because what's already going on, is more than, I'd say it's probably 6 or 7 times what it was, including, or not including, the 6, 7, 8, 9 tractor trailers that go through there every single day.
Oh, I think you're underestimating that.
Yeah, there's a lot.
There is a lot,
Before the
and I
cost.
met with Earl, I've met Earl several times, but when he started this whole project, I met with Earl. Earl took myself, my wife was on the planning board, and Annie, on a tour. And I mentioned the fact that they were opening, that they cut a hole in the gate at the end of Seneca Street there, and he said, well, his plan was not to have anybody go through there, they were gonna go over on 96 acre through the main gate. That has not happened, and I am really not happy about that. You know, the traffic is just outrageous, it's, you know, they start at 4 in the morning, they go to 10, 11 o'clock at night. But, I'm concerned, first of all, I'm concerned from the standpoint of the IDA. The IDA's purpose is to generate jobs. You guys are here to incentivize businesses to generate jobs. There are no jobs coming out of this. So I'm not sure why you are considering granting, Seneca Dairy Systems another pilot when they are not going to generate jobs from it. It's just,
For another 20 years.
anyway.
Well, we have, just, can I just respond real quick? I mean, so we actually are continuously hiring. I have, 10 positions.
Who are you hiring?
We have a PLC programmer position right now, a mechanical engineer, welders.
That has nothing
Material
to do with
handlers.
residents, though. What residents, local people have you hired?
As many people that apply that are looking for a job.
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, you can't cherry pick and say we're only gonna hire somebody from Romulus because there may not be somebody else.
And we have,
I get that.
residents living around us.
But you know, this is a significant pilot for something that is anticipated to generate no net new jobs.
This specific project, right?
This
But
specific
also-
project, that's why we're here, is to talk about this specific
Right,
project.
right.
Can hi, I'm Ben Guthrie, I'm on the IDA board, and there seems to be a lot of crosstalk here. When we talk about tax exemption, it isn't like they're not gonna pay taxes for the next 12
They're
years.
gonna pay a reduced rate.
It ramps up.
Mhm.
It's a nice straight line. So you're always, the school and the town are always gonna get more taxes than what they are receiving right now. Because you just don't lose. What you could lose is the opportunity to have a big business in your area, and they've got 100 people working there, right?
130.
Those are the
Multi-million
jobs,
falls.
those are the jobs that this solar is gonna support.
I'm
Because they haven't gotten the heat from the gas yet, so they, the next phase that they've been waiting, I'm amazed, they've been waiting 6 years for this. That's a big facility.
I understand. I would also point out though, that it's not like this is not gonna happen if they don't get this exemption. If Seneca Dairy Systems does not get this pilot, they're not gonna say, okay, we're not gonna build it, we're not gonna expand, we're not gonna do our business. you're gonna pursue other avenues. You know, either go ahead with the solar without the pilot, you'll get NICEAG to hook up, but it's not like it's going to stop. This pilot is an incentive. Absolutely, I agree with that. But it's not a requirement. It's not like the business is gonna go away if you don't get the pilot.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah, he's not gonna pick up and move. Well, there's a lot of people in Seneca County that aren't very happy with the proceedings that Seneca had. It's like a gold mine handed to somebody. Now they want all these exemptions to expand. He knew exactly when before he bought the place or he gave it to him. He didn't have power. He didn't have gas. Now we've got the Seneca County residents have to foot the bill on the sales tax to keep our government and our cities and towns going.
They're not footing the bill. There's no money coming out of Seneca County. It's just a delay in when you're gonna receive
There's
it.
no money coming out of Seneca County. There's no money going into it either.
Well, it will be,
When
though? Unemployment taxes and so on, yeah.
It's been coming for years.
It's ramping up.
Supervisor.
So I'm the Brown Town, Dave Hayes, Brown Town. I wanna tell you, I was on board at the time when the pilot took place, okay?
Which one?
The one, the 1, 2, and 3 that they're in now, the
Okay.
phases they're in, are not this new one, but 1, 2, and 3. So phase 1 originally was to build the production area, which they did, right? That was the welding area. Phase 2 was gonna be the galvanizing. Each one was a 10-year pilot originally. Spaced apart, 10 years apart, is how it started out, so that they would end up at the end of the whole thing and fully functional. Right, that's how it was designed at the beginning, so that they would, all 3 phases could happen, it would be a smooth transition, this part of it would ramp up to full, this next phase would keep, because as the plants increased in sizes, the value of the property increases in value. So each phase 1, it made it worth, let's say 100,000, phase 2, 200,000. So you start out with this one, 100,000 would be fully supported, and paying its full share of taxes. That next phase, when it started, would be that new bump in the revenue, or the new bump in the value of the property, would slowly build it back up to like the first one. That was the idea behind the pilot program. Great idea, wonderful idea, beautiful idea. Problem I'm seeing here is that you want to do a phase on top of what you're already doing at phase 4. So why does this have to be phased in at 12 years when you have a phase 2 that's already gonna add to the value of the property that you're gonna start? You're already saying they're gonna wanna start phase 2 by pouring a bigger building. And then phase 3 was actually, phase 3 was the warehouse storage. That's phase 3 of your, that's the third phase. Phase 1 is the manufacturing, phase 2 is the galvanizing, phase 3 is the storage. How many ever buildings you build in square footage doesn't mean anything to the rest of us, really. What it means is the value of your property goes up each phase. That's what it's doing. So I understand and I agree that there's a pilot program that starts out, and the reason for it to start out low and work its way up to a full base. So you, in other words, now you're done with your growth and you're paying the same share as everybody else equally on the taxes. But I don't understand why you want to add another pilot program on top of one you already have. My question is why are you adding a pilot on top of a phase 2 pilot? You've got to be 2 pilots. So it's,
This would be an amendment to the existing pilot agreement.
so that
We
it's.
have to treat this as a separate project, because this has to go through permitting, it has to go through state environmental quality review with the town.
Right, because
And,
of what it
you know,
is.
we need to do public comment like this on it, because it's something that wasn't discussed as part of the original
Right,
plans.
so my question is why can't, instead of being an additional pilot, just have it be part of the phase 2 pilot that you've already given them a 12-year exemption on?
So
You've already done it for 12 years.
it is essentially, each phase,
Well, it's either gotta be, you can't say it is
it's
or isn't.
additive, so each phase is its own separate calculation. This isn't a
It's
separate
right.
pilot agreement because it's the same tax parcel. So administratively, there's no subdivision of the site happening here.
Correct.
You know, in some ways that would make things a lot easier.
Well, I can
The
understand.
pilot basically allows us to assign a value to these
Right, so,
additions that are happening and make sure that they're being paid and not just actually
so
being
I
tax
guess-
exempt by virtue of the fact that the property's already tax exempt and then the town not getting any new
so.
revenue as a
Right, so
result
again,
of
the
this
question-
project.
The question is, so if you have a pilot program set in place based on value for a phase two value, what the valuation is gonna be. Now you're gonna add something else to that same, why can't you just take that same run the same formula, whether it be,
This is
now
the
you're
same
gonna
formula.
add, well, you're gonna add X number of more value to the property because you're gonna have a solar field with battery storage, that's gonna make the value of the property worth more, correct? That's the idea, behind it,
Yes.
right? So if that's gonna happen in phase two, which you're already starting into, then the value of that property should be the same. That's, like I said, so the value of the property now jumped up because phase two consisted of adding this. We still have to do a seeker because you're adding something different to the property. I understand all that, but I don't understand why you have to have another pilot program in place that has to be calculated out based on the value of the property. So the value of the property is gonna go up, what you already thought in phase two, because the designs that they came in with for the initial pilot program was gonna add this much increase into the value. That's why the values came out the way they are. So now there has to be reevaluated.
This is the same formula that is applied to the other phases, just applied to the solar.
Right, okay. But that's what I'm saying to you. So
And
I'm
it's
just trying
not
to
quite
figure out.
simultaneous with phase two. So in reality, if this project, gets approved for incentives, if the town finishes its permitting and review process of this would be going into effect roughly, let's say, 2 years after what was the beginning of phase two. The way the formula works is the payment for phase one, the payment for phase two for whatever year we are in phase two, and then this one would be the payment for whatever it is based on this formula, which is the same formula that is in the other phases. Then phase three kicks in and that gets added on. So it's all one bill that goes to the company, it's all one tax parcel. But we wanna make sure that the additional value of the property as a result of this development is being accounted for, which is why we're having these discussions, considering this addendum to the agreement, so that construction isn't happening on a tax exempt parcel and then nobody's getting any additional compensation for it, because that would be a shame.
Well, I understand, like I said, I just don't understand why we're gonna put another pilot, we wanna put another pilot in place in one yard. I realize it's because the values changed, but we should be able to figure out on the pilot program we already have in place. It's not like, because
I
this
guess
is not.
maybe I'm not fully understanding
well,
the
the
question,
difference is
because this
one
is the
would be
same
done.
pilot agreement ultimately.
One will be done, it ends in, the phase two ends whenever whatever the agreement, whether it's a 12-year or 10-year, whatever it is, I thought they were all 10, but I guess you're reading it out as 12.
Yeah, they're 12.
Okay, so, and I just couldn't remember if it was 10 or 12, but so they're 12, so a 12-year agreement, so now we're gonna take that 12, based on a property value that is increased quite a bit more, because now, so you're trying to tell me you wanna take that additional increase of the value and start that one when that, I guess I'm a little confused at all, it's like a pilot program on top of a pilot program on top, it's just extended on, this one ends after.
So
I'm
the
just
no
trying to
pilot
figure-
agreement,
The
the
original one stops.
So
at
when a
141.
phase is complete, okay, so let's say phase one, we're not at the end of 12 years, but let's say that we were at the 12-year mark when that schedule is done ramping up. There is a prescribed amount in the agreement to govern the payments of phase one during the additional phases. So once that pilot schedule has phased all the way through 12 years, whatever the phase one work, the production facility, that does not all of a sudden go back on the tax roll or stop becoming tax exempt. But the phased in schedule basically changes to full value, and so we bill pilot payments based on that.
Right, I
If that
understand,
makes
right,
sense.
and phase two could start before phase one, and it's phase one,
Correct.
you could be 5 years into phase one, and then start phase two. And then that pilot will start for that one, so that, you know,
Yes.
the first one will still go to all, the second one will start 5 years, could be 5 years after one start, two would start, because you're progressing along, right? That's the
Yes.
idea behind it, the idea is to slowly work everything up as a phase changes, right? Understand.
I apologize that this one is confusing. A lot of our projects are not phased in this way, so administratively and, you know, trying to convey all of this to the public, it does get to be a lot. So we
from going
appreciate,
from one phase to the next, you're looking at 30 to 40 years.
this pilot cannot go any longer than 2041, which based on when this first took effect is a 20-year agreement.
I got a question.
Yes,
So when you were in Seneca Falls, how many people were in that plant? Not same as today, how many working, paying payroll positions did you have in the Seneca Falls plant?
When I left there, like when we transitioned.
When you moved over to Romulus, Seneca
So
Falls?
again, it was phased, but maybe 60.
Okay, and then any other location, anywhere else outside of Seneca County, how many of those positions, not necessarily people, moved to Romulus?
Well, every worker now is on this. Oh, physically moved.
No, just the position.
Oh,
So I
every
had a
single one.
position in Michigan with your company, or wherever you may have been, Alaska, and you stopped that operation, that position came to Romulus. So how many of those positions, how many of the 130 that you're touting already existed somewhere else? All of them.
No. What do
You
mean?
just said you had 60 in Seneca Falls that moved to Romulus. You didn't make 60 new positions, you moved 60 positions.
And then added, you're right, 70 more.
From other closures, because you just said all your locations are in one spot.
We didn't have any employees in ever.
Okay. So, next question I have for the front. So, in the current request, first of all, what I don't understand is we're talking in circles, but why would Earl Martin, why would Seneca Dairy Systems and all the partners apply for a pilot if there wasn't a benefit to them? So anyone that's trying to sell, this is great for the community, there's just a stint to it, because there's a benefit to the businessman, or he wouldn't do it, period. Now, with that said, my next question, or my next statement, I'm gonna go to a guy that works the highway. There's a highway guy, there's a highway guy. To pave a lane mile of road, what's it cost?
1 mile,
1 mile.
just over 100,000.
100,000 for a lane mile of road. What would we say Seneca Street is? From 96,
It's just under a mile.
just under a mile. So there and back, we're 2 miles. So $200,000 to maintain Seneca Street, which is the road they're using, starting at about 5:30 in the morning, 6 days a week. Heavy tractor trailers up and down, tractors up and down, and the vehicle traffic aside, 200,000. Yet the local municipality is gonna get $1,900 a year for 12 years. That doesn't seem right. And in the local tax amount, what goes to the fire protection for that plant that he has? It's 60, what'd you say, 600 million
special
square feet?
district taxes are not exempt.
So where would
So-
I find that that's getting paid?
So you would take the value that is the assessed value of the property, the full assessed value, because it does still have to be valued by your lovely assessor who's here this evening. So she does still have to assign a value to this property, even though it is tax exempt, as if it were on the tax roll, okay? That value is then used to apply the full tax rates for any special districts that are part of this parcel. So if there is a, library fund, fire protection, if there's a water district, any special district is getting the full amount as if this property were on a tax roll. The only thing that is impacted by a pilot are school, town, county, and if there is a village taxes.
and steps taxes.
And sales tax, but sales tax is not technically part of the payment in lieu of tax. That is a separate agreement applied to equipment and construction materials and is for the duration of the construction.
And so the equipment and procurement, so if they were to procure a hydraulic excavator, which under your solar exemption you're referencing, probably wouldn't be exempt to go buy a $250,000 excavator. But under the pilot exemption, you'd be able to go get a $250,000 excavator, not pay 8% sales tax on it, and then use it for other projects down the road. Again, there's a reason that big business puts in for pilot programs. So my position on is I'm not opposed to a pilot. We already have a 3-phase one in place, which I believe, as a person, I'm speaking for myself, Seneca Dairy Systems as a whole has maybe built a building, but outside of that, all the other stuff that was touted and promised and guaranteed hasn't happened. And the only thing that we've gotten from it is increased traffic. We got a power grid that flickers and farts in the hamlet around us all the time. Doesn't matter what house you're in, your house flickers. Partly because of the upgrades that were done to try to supplement them. And there's no win. If there's not a win for the residents, for the people paying taxes, it's $200,000 to redo a road. And you want to give them $1,900 a year in your pilot program. Yeah, Earl Martin, his own mouth, said, we won't use Seneca Street. Yet you constantly, always, without reservation, use Seneca Street. I'm opposed to this pilot being granted because they obviously are going to move forward either way. They moved all their operations here, as I just said.
So one thing I would like to say just on the electricity side, because I think that is a valid concern. It would be, I think, remiss to try to attribute it to any particular project. The issue that you see in this part of the county with electricity flickering, because it is not just Romulus, it is all over the place. It's been widely publicized in the news that, you know, basically everything south of here has had tremendous issues over the past few years, especially with storms and other prolonged outages, is the fact that our utilities, and power in particular, are like 70 years old. We have a 4 kilovolt electric system that runs through this part of the county. Modern day standard is 12 kilovolt. That is a utility issue. That is not a particular user that is causing everybody to have power surges. The utility has made some proposals and some plans and has been doing some things to band-aid and fix the system, but they are also separately, you know, proposing significant capital investment in order to upgrade all of those old lines so that people down here do not see those kinds of power flickers and surges. And that is a valid thing, and that's something that, you know, everybody should be expressing their concerns about to NYSEG and RG&E as a provider and giving them feedback when those issues occur. Yes.
And the addition of a solar farm, particularly with the battery storage, is designed to mitigate that kind of issue.
His proposal is he's going to use and store what he generates. It was written in the
Exactly.
paper. He
So
is using
You're
and storing.
worried about he's taking too much from the power lines or something, he's trying to disconnect from it.
But he needs the power to do galvanizing. So what he's gonna put in is going to be for something that he needs, so it's gonna be a negative impact. There's
No,
gonna be
our
no
system's
gain.
big enough to run our entire facility. That's why we built it.
Yeah, if you're worried about that plant taking too much of what little electricity is available on the poles, they're trying to mitigate that. They're trying to get off the NYSEG grid. That would be a benefit to
Then build
everybody
it,
else.
but it doesn't need a pilot to build it.
Agreed. That's an issue.
Yes.
Yes, I believe you used to galvanize at your original facility, right?
No,
You never did. Well, where did you ship your items to have them
it's the same place we do now, Hubble galvanizing,
Okay, so that was.
which
being
accounts for a lot of
done
these trucks going down
prior
your
to
street too.
that. Okay,
So we send probably, 3 to 6 tractor trailer loads of black steel a week and bring.
That Earl said he wasn't gonna send trucks though.
Gotta get the stuff
You need to
galvanized,
take
and we
that
can't
back
sell
there.
it.
Right,
Well,
there's
we can't
3 other
keep
ways to get
employed.
out of that property.
well, I was by your original facility this last month and you had an awful lot of items there still.
Yeah, we still have like,
Yeah.
scrap steel and leftover stuff we never move. We still do painting over there. So we have 2
You
people
do
over there
painting
right now.
over there, okay, but no galvanizing. Okay, I always assumed you did galvanizing.
I wish we
because
did.
I remember
We spent a lot of
his
money on
father, when
galvanizing.
he was operating there.
Other questions or comments?
I wanna come back to the tax thing.
Okay.
And maybe I'm misinterpreting this, but on your cost benefit analysis, you show that there is a property tax and a sales tax exemption totaling $695,000 and change. So that's taxes he will not have to pay, correct?
Correct?
You're showing that in his pilot, he's going to pay a total of $370,000.
Correct.
So that's $387,000, almost $388,000 of taxes that are not going to come to the entities. That is a huge tax loss.
Especially when the town around us is the third highest tax rate in all of Seneca County.
20%.
I mean, I am opposed to this pilot. I didn't say that previously, but I thought it was pretty honest, but I will come and say it. I am opposed to this pilot.
I'd like to make a statement.
Yes.
On your website, your first paragraphs, this is just a portion. We work with private sector, commercial, and industrial development to support the economic welfare of the people of our community. You are not doing that. You have not done that. These pilots are no good, not for this community or anybody that lives in Seneca County. We just see it as a big favor to Earl Martin via you guys again. You're not gonna find anybody who's gonna vote for it, that's for sure. I've been getting texts and calls all day. No. This is sad. This is really sad that you guys are trying to pull another 2 more pilots to pile onto this man who paid absolutely a big fat zero for that depot and everything that goes on there. I live not far from Mr. Johnson. I hear that noise all the time. I see the trucks all the time. He's logging, he's taking dump truckfuls of dirt out of there. Has anybody even called the Army Corps of Engineers? Because that's contaminated ground. A lot of that is, and they have control over that. I'll bet you $10 that they don't even know what he's doing in there. So, I mean, this is a big issue. He starts digging in that contaminated ground, how is that going to affect the residents, especially the older residents in town?
He has agreements that govern what he can and cannot do. The Army Corps is still active at the depot and is still doing
When was the last time
remediation.
he tested it?
The Army-
Since he's been digging?
She's right, the Army Corps is it.
The Army Corps was in there last year. I seen them in there last
There's
year.
still
They're in there.
remediation. There are still portions of the
I-
depot that have not been transferred to their final ownership. So
Right.
I do not know enough about the specific instances you're talking about. I would be happy to follow up with some questions to folks with more information, and try to track down,
They have a-
what you think may be going on in terms of trucks moving in and out and taking dirt and where that's coming from and who's doing that, but as of right now, I don't have a response to that or have enough information. Yes,
Can I clarify a tiny bit, please?
of course.
So Mr. Martin no longer owns the depot as a whole. In December of 2025, the Amish community fulfilled their obligations, or the deal was made that they assumed control of the majority.
Yeah.
So a lot of what's moving could be other than Mr. Martin.
There's a solar
Certainly,
lease on
there's-
it, we can't do
But they
anything
sold
with
it.
it.
Yeah, they
And
sold
there's
it.
plenty of other property owners. You have First Light Technologies, which is a fiber company that has the old Q area. There are places there that are still being heavily remediated by the Army Corps. You have Flom Management, which is a Rochester-based, real estate holder and developer that has, about 1,000 acres of the old administrative area. So there are other things going on besides whatever Mr. Martin is doing, including government entities that are doing remediation. And again, I can't speak to the specifics of this particular concern, but if you have additional information or things you would like us to look into on your behalf, we would be happy to do so. And I'd be happy to give you my card so we can follow up.
Mr. Martin came on top. Now, the IDA should be looking at Main Street over. It gets up and done there.
We are. These things are not happening in vacuums. We are doing a little bit of everything.
Well,
As much
I
as we can.
understand, but I definitely would be against this pilot system.
Okay.
got the ship, now sail it. Don't ask for us to help.
Okay,
A question,
yes.
how many acres is the actual solar farm part of it
5
going to be?
acres.
5 acres, great, thank you.
The solar farm, that was 75.
No.
That's
That's just
just
the
solar
entire
parcel
five,
is
it's only
75.
5 acres.
So 5 acres
Five
across
of
the
the
street from
75.
where our
5 acres.
Thank you.
That's what you guys cleared last fall, right? Across from the factory.
Yeah, there was, yeah, a little bit. Yeah, most of it was clear cut.
So
Yeah,
they're
there was a
not,
couple
yeah,
of old buildings.
electricity. going.
Is there any potential to, have surplus electricity that can be used outside of your operation, or is it just?
New York
for-
State heavily regulates, distribution of energy, so you actually have to like be a registered company in order to be an energy distributor. So anything done with this facility has to stay internal to this facility. That is why there are companies that will come and try to do either what they call community scale solar, which are like your 5 megawatt projects that you sometimes see, or utility scale solar, which is anything larger than that.
So how does that work on a private system? So I know a homeowner over on 129, he says anything extra that he generates, he puts back on the grid. So how can he do that if Earl Martin can't?
So it goes by, I can insert it, but, so you apply for an interconnect with NICEAG, and then they look at the line loads and if it makes sense. And then they will allow, like, usually residents or homeowners to put excess power back on.
But
and
you
then-
couldn't.
But we can't, because our lines also can't handle the amount of
Yeah.
power.
And
The grid's
think of it this
insufficient,
way.
yeah.
129 is gonna put that much on,
Mhm.
Earl Martin potentially puts that much on, and if the lines can't hold it, then you're gonna have other problems.
But he's not gonna put anything on.
No, and
We're not
I
convinced.
honestly, as much as it sounds like I'm opposed to Earl Martin, I'm not opposed to this project. It wouldn't be fair for any of us to ask him to build, because he's a businessman, build a solar farm big enough to support the Hamlet and Romulus, and then when he doesn't, or can't, right, because you initially are natural gas, and you have to pivot from that. So if everyone's asking him to make promises that he's gonna put in a 1.2 gigawatt solar system, and which gonna power the whole county, when he can't do it, everyone's gonna be mad at him again. So I don't think it would even be fair to ask for that.
Well, the problem with solar is heat generated, and the only time you really have heat is in the spring and in summer and early fall. In the winter, there's hardly no generation of electricity.
Sally, that's not true. We
Are
have
you
solar
sure?
for our farm up there,
Yeah,
and we generate just about as much electricity throughout the winter as they do in the summer.
I'm shocked.
Sometimes better than
I'm
mine,
shocked
right?
that that's
It
true.
work, I don't know
From the
why,
sun or what?
but that's the way it works. We pay zero for our
Summer's
farm
actually-
because the
In
solar.
the winter, the sun is actually
Or
closer
does
to
it
our
build up
central
from the summer
So the
and then
UV
you
rays
I don't like, I'm not a specialist there. I know.
That's what I'm told it happens.
Yeah,
Nice and cold. Whatever.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'd like to clarify my position, I said I'm opposed to the pilot, I am not at all opposed to the solar project. It's not, it's out of sight, it's small, it's for its own use, I have absolutely no problem with it. I have a problem with it costing me money for him to do it, which is in effect what's gonna happen.
But I'm Ralph Long. How can you say it's gonna cost you money?
Because that tax revenue has to be made up from somebody.
But if Earl doesn't do this, say he pulls out, you're gonna lose 130 jobs. If he goes, he won't go.
Mhm.
But you're not gonna lose one dime because he's paying on that ground now. And if he builds more in 10 years, then the taxes will go up. But if he doesn't build this, your taxes are gonna stay the same unless the town decides to raise the taxation rate. Otherwise, you're not losing a dime. You're getting just as much money today as you will get a year from now, whether he builds it or not. In 10 years, you will get more if he builds it. But today and tomorrow and yesterday, that number's flat. It's not changing. It's not costing Romulus anything. If he doesn't build this and create more jobs and make some industry in this town, you will never see a tax increase here because your people will. Because you all have to pay more because you demand paved roads, you demand water, you demand sewer, and the only way to get that is from the citizens, unless you have a business like Earl's willing to do up there. Otherwise, you're screwed. You are.
But to say that we're not going to lose money is wrong.
Tell me how then.
Because you're going to give him exemptions over the next 12 years.
Yep.
That he would be paying if you didn't give him exemptions.
That's a theory. That's not the way it is, because we give exemptions.
That's what the cost benefit analysis it says, so if whoever prepared the cost benefit analysis is proposing a theory for this project.
I mean, there's a lot of
I
ways to
could
look at
rant
this.
about cost benefit analyses, cause quite frankly, in some ways they are theoretical. Because we are assigning what we think might be the value of something, because we have to
Yeah, I
provide
understand.
for state law
Oh,
what we
absolutely.
think the estimated exemption is, right? The complication with this property is the fact that it is not on the tax roll. So, I'm just gonna throw out a hypothetical question. If somebody has an answer or something they'd like to think about, I would love to genuinely know the answer to this. This property is tax exempt under a pilot agreement. There is a formula in place upon which we use, to secure revenue right now for the taxing jurisdictions. If we decide that this particular solar facility should not be tax exempt and part of that pilot agreement, how are we and the assessor and anybody else that is involved in trying to make sure that the municipalities get their revenue, how are we supposed to administratively account for the fact that this new addition on a tax exempt parcel is fully taxable?
So I'm gonna ask a question to your question. Because I don't know the answer, but if I knew this answer to anyone in the front. So everyone's trying to tell us, the uneducated residents, that it's really, we're the ignorant ones. So clear up my ignorance. What is the benefit for Seneca Dairy Systems to have this pilot?
The benefit for Seneca Dairy Systems to have this pilot is, first of all, it saves money, but also when you're talking about a pilot agreement, the primary benefit to any developer, not just Seneca Dairy Systems, is the fact that when you are constructing something, your highest risk is going to be early on when you are making the largest capital outlay, which is why a pilot agreement is phased so that you are getting the most exemption value in the early years to help offset that risk. So that when you're spending, 4 million, 5 million, 20 million, whatever the number is, in a couple of years on construction and labor and all of those things, going through permitting processes, going through timelines that maybe are very likely gonna be delayed beyond what you think, where it takes longer to get business started, or it takes you longer to get sales going and revenue coming in like you projected. Those years are intentionally meant to be a little bit softer on the tax side so that you don't just spend, let's say, $20 million on a project and then all of a sudden you get your tax bill at full value and go, oh no, I do not have enough revenue to cover this.
That's a
shutting
me problem,
my
that's
doors."
not a me problem.
Right.
I worked for a company, before I retired, I worked for a company with $9 billion company, that had 120,000 employees worldwide. We didn't start a capital project unless we knew that the revenue improvements, whatever, the gain from the project would fund the cost of it. We didn't ask for somebody to help us fund it for us.
And there are plenty of large companies that can afford to do that. Some of the medium to smaller sized companies need things like incentives in order to be able to secure bank financing and future investment or grow the company faster. And I think everybody's concerns, everybody here is entitled to have their concerns. I don't want to invalidate, I don't want to make anybody here feel ignorant. What we are doing is far more complicated because of all the legal jargon and all the requirements and things than probably in some ways it needs to be. That's why we are here. We would love to answer questions and try to clarify this as much as possible because it is not something that is just common sense for people. It is a very strange process.
This was in the paper.
Yes.
What it says, Seneca Dairy System seeks IDA a solar project at former depot.
Mhm.
Solar project. This exemption is just for the solar?
Solar and battery. And it was discussed, it's in the application, it was discussed in the newspaper article, and I have no
So
control
solar-
over the way the headlines
They
are
build
written.
the solar panels. They build the storage batteries, period. We don't put any more IBA stuff into building the factory or the galvanizing plant.
That is already covered under an existing agreement, all the manufacturing side of things. Now, if the company ever decided to expand beyond what has already been, proposed and approved and everything, and I know nobody here is gonna wanna hear me say this, but if they were doing another sizable expansion beyond that and said, look, we would really need and like some incentives to be able to get that off the ground, that would again be a separate project that would be considered. This today is just for the battery and solar. Yes, Nan?
I think that listening to everybody's comments, one of the biggest things outside of this particular pilot is collectively how much Earl Martin has been given. And if you sold them Hillside for 65,000. I looked up today, it's worth $8.5 million. Is that correct? And
I had a
it was on the Seneca County. We're constantly watching him get richer and richer and richer. And you keep giving and giving. Well, a man that's got as much money as he does, he's probably one of the wealthiest people in Seneca County. But you're making him wealthier with all these things that you're giving him, even though it clearly says in here, the project would most likely go through if you don't get a pilot. Is that correct?
Well, we do have the equipment sitting on the ground.
Well, see, so again, you're just putting more money in his pockets. And that's what we see as residents of Seneca County and how everyone is struggling.
You're taking from the residents.
Well, I mean, yes and no. I mean, it's complicated, as you said, and I'm not supporting solar. It's his property to do as he wants. What I don't support is how you continue to give him more and more and more that puts money in his pockets. I mean, I would have bought Hillside for 65,000. I would have given you 66,000 for it.
Would have loved for you guys to all come in and bid on Hillside when we were trying to sell
Sarah,
it.
where it gets published in places people don't see.
Well,
So
they didn't have it advertised, that's why he was able to buy.
No, we did have to advertise. We
Well,
have to advertise all of
Nobody
those
else
things.
knows
and
about it.
It was
Oh,
at
by
a
the
very
way,
strange time.
Sarah, where's the gondola that he promised
Oh,
for?
yeah.
And, from Hill, you remember this conversation in his application, he's gonna put a gondola for rides for everybody, where is that? The problem I have personally with Earl Martin is that he blows a lot of smoke up people's butts and says he promises X, Y, and Z, and he's not held accountable to do that. So that's where I'm at with this, and it's very frustrating to see someone continuously be handed. It's not even silver anymore, it's gold plated now, it's gold for 18 karat that you put in front of him, and he laughs all the way to the bank, He goes and buys helicopters and planes, we see him, we have land right there, so I mean, come on, the man's got money, and you're just continuing to put more. If he doesn't have to pay taxes or pay whatever it is that you're giving him breaks on, he just puts all that in his pocket. Maybe he is reinvesting it. I don't know, but I'd love to see successful businesses. We support local businesses before we'll go somewhere else. However, enough's enough. Enough's enough.
Yes.
So, I really wanna try to make some sense of this. So, from our side, so Seneca Dairy Systems, the parcel where the manufacturing facility is up on Deerhaven Parkway. So the application says 75 acres,
Yes.
it's gonna be 5.
The application has to identify the tax parcel, so the whole tax parcel is 75 acres.
Including where the facility is current.
Correct. This particular construction is only gonna take place on about 5 of those acres.
So now, those numbers that people read in the paper, and the information we have, starts to make a little bit more sense, right? When you're reading 75 acres, and in your read, you talked about 75 acres. So the next part about the public read. So it says that
the company and the leaser, and you got into all these legalese.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna go with, I'm gonna go with you and you, okay? So you currently own 75 acres. Agree or disagree?
That's Seneca Dairy Systems?
Seneca Dairy Systems.
Sure, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
And what it reads in the paper and what it reads in your public notice is you are gonna take over control.
No. So this is where things start to get strange. So the way that pilot agreements work is the IDA, we are a public authority under New York state law. Means that we were founded and empowered by an act of the New York State Legislature to provide incentives for the benefit of the county, okay? The mechanism that allows us to provide those incentives is called a lease and a leaseback agreement. We are not leasing the property. What it really means is that it's how we transfer our tax exempt status, essentially, to these parcels so that they can be taken off of the tax roll while the payments are made. So we don't have any control over the property. We are not leasing it in the normal sense that you would like rent an apartment or lease land from somebody. It's just a legal mechanism for us to transfer the tax exempt status for the duration of a pilot. And the wording is, you know, not super clear on that because
Well, you
it
cleared it
gives
up.
an impression.
Well, you cleared it up, thank you.
You're
Right, so now I understand it. So then my follow-up to that is, so
Yes.
now you enter into a pilot, whether it's this one, the previous one, whatever. Is there, and there probably is, I didn't read it page to page in the 6 font you provided us. Is there a default mechanism?
So we do have what we call clawback provisions. So if the company does not meet the promises related to this particular project, our board can take action and can terminate an agreement before that agreement has expired. And they can even demand clawback and payment of back taxes, essentially. Typically, the types of things that could instigate that sort of procedure would be if a company is not meeting their hiring and job requirements, and we do track those every year. Every company that has ever had, or has a current pilot with us, I should say, has to provide their NY-45s for all of their employment. We know what their employment was before the start of a project, and every year we track what their employment is in that given year. And we compare that to the promises they made in their application, which is what gets codified for them. And if the company is not meeting their expectations, and that gets averaged out, by the way, over the course of a year. So if a company has, you know, extra help in the summer, but parses back a little bit in the winter time, that does get averaged. It's quarterly employment numbers that we look at. So our board would consider those projects and would decide whether or not they needed to begin legal action against someone. I've been with the IDA for 6 years now. We have not instituted clawback since I've been here. There have been projects, you know, that have not necessarily met job requirements. It was very common in 2020 with COVID and the couple years following. The way we have proceeded with those was to reach out to those companies and those property owners and ask for explanation as to why the job requirements were not met and what steps they were taking to meet them. In some cases, things were renegotiated because the expectations, you know, when the project was first approved, did not hold true in that economy. So yes, that was a long answer to your question, but yes, there are provisions where we could institute clawbacks of something. For this particular project, for the pilot that is existing on the galvanizing plant, the company has been exceeding what their original application outlined for each phase, and they have different employment requirements in each phase.
Any of these solar projects getting any subsidies to building solars?
Like the community solar, you mean, project?
The project to run the galvanized, the next project, the other project, solar project, they're getting any subsidies?
No, so this particular solar project is only applying for incentives through the IDA. They're not seeking state incentives or
That's phase one.
subsidies.
Right, that's phase one. We galvanized plant, the solar.
No, solar is separate from any of the phased work that is being done.
And even if they were, even if Seneca Dairy was able and qualified for my solar grants, that would be something that I could apply for at my own house potentially. So I don't think, and as much as it sounds like I'm playing both sides of the fence here, I'm just playing what sounds actually like rational. If they are qualified for NYSERDA, bless them, then go get a
So
NYSERDA.
we did apply, of course, why wouldn't we, right?
Right.
But they were pulled, so it is costing us quite a bit more money.
They've had solar companies.
There have been solar
And they
developers that have
$3
come to
million
the IDA
in
for incentives, yes.
So I, just one more question as I was trying to,
Yeah.
I was trying to get to a point, and I think we're almost there. So Seneca Dairy owns the property.
Mhm.
The leaseback is just words, it's not an actual, you have no teeth in that, right?
The teeth would be the clawback
The clawback,
provisions and the requirements, yes.
So, alright, so then my last question, which I think might clear up a lot of, may not change your opinion, but just might give you a different, give everyone a different understanding. So currently, there's a 3-phase pilot.
Mhm.
We're into phase 2, if I've listened
Yes.
somewhat properly. So, and these are fictitious numbers, so phase 1, they're paying $1,000. Just.
Yeah.
And then now in phase 2, they're paying $1,000 plus another $1,000, so it'd be $2,000. Or something close,
Yeah.
something close to that, right?
Yes,
There's a progression.
yes, there is a
And because
progression.
phase 1's not done, they're making the phase 1 payment, and now that phase 2 is started, they're making the phase 2 payment. And if by chance they were $1,000 and $1,000, they're currently making $2,000 payment,
Mhm.
which I'm certain is much more than that.
Yep.
So, this is my final question. So, if this pilot doesn't go in, nothing changes.
In terms of the payments,
He get Seneca Dairy, and I want to say he, because it's a business, right? Let's talk about it as a business. Seneca Dairy will put in their solar, they'll spend their money, they'll put their solar in, but nothing. They'll get phase 1 until it runs out, phase 2 that we started, and phase 3, whenever that may happen. Because them putting in solar is probably somehow already protected under the pilots that you have with them, so it's not going to trigger an assessment adjustment or any type of payment.
this is the part where it gets complicated for us, so, technically it would be exempt. I mean, this was not part of the original project, it was not part of the original pilot agreement in that sense. But because it is on the same tax exempt parcel, unless it were subdivided out, there would be no, unless someone here has another suggestion of how to do it, there would be no way for us to charge or bill a full tax bill on something that is not independently valued from the rest.
Right, and in pilot application aside, as a business, Seneca Dairy, whether they're under exempt property or fully taxable property, could say, well, no, I have deed to that 5 acres, and that's where I'm putting my solar panels. So, yeah, that's where they're going. Talk to me in 12 years. Am I close?
Yes.
Just to figure, how many pilot programs do you have on the books right now?
27 currently.
Are they all tax exempt?
Yes, anything that is technically a pilot is tax exempt. It's a payment in lieu of taxes.
And just my final thing, so that's 2 parts. So 1, if this, even though I'm still not in favor of it, right? Though my mind is changing maybe a little bit, but I'm not changing my position. So if it's not approved, which, there's potentially no additional monies coming. If it was approved, we get another $1,000 using my fictitious value. Okay. So I had one more thing and I forgot what it was.
You'll remember 5 minutes after you leave.
Yeah. No, it was kind of bringing everything together. So you mentioned it earlier a few times over that you you didn't arbitrarily, the numbers that you put in to come up with a pilot, are valuations. The percentages are like a constant, right? They don't change.
Yep, so what we did is we took for this particular project, the same formula that is used for phase 1 and phase 2 and phase 3 and applied it to this project. So that everything matches because, you know, we are all real people too that have to find a way to administer and bill this and are trying to do this accurately and fairly.
You use the total project.
So-
There's an assumption that after you spend 3.5 million, and anyone's gonna want that, if I'm spending 3.5 million, I want whatever I do to be worth 3.5 million, right? So I get that, but, and my concern is back to $100,000 a lane mile to maintain roads, and there's more than just that, but that's just a really big, that puts a dollar value to the cost of, and I completely understand that, you wanna invest money, and you've got this ramp that you keep talking about, and it's all great and fine and dandy, and he could leave, he won't, but it seems like every time when you see the frustration, there's a certain name that has a frustration to all these projects. So, and this isn't maybe a you thing, this is maybe a you thing to take back to your president, is he needs to do better PR, because he pretty much sucks at it. And he's terrible. And that's the reason everyone's against Seneca Dairy Systems. Most people don't know what Seneca Dairy Systems is. They know Earl Martin, and they don't like him. That's your problem.
And he knows. So, I mean, that probably doesn't help the problem, because I think we can be kind of frank here about this, is, he is very focused on running the business. He doesn't seem to care about the PR. But obviously, the PR is causing issues for the business when they want to do things, and then we have, a tremendous amount of public outcry because there's some misunderstandings, it's very difficult to get the lines of communication going. As far as the concerns that have been mentioned today about Seneca Street, I hope you would bring those back to Earl. I'll certainly bring them up with him. And we'll try to do what we can to facilitate some communication about that and maybe try to find some solutions if we can. But ultimately, where trucks are driving or are not driving is not up to the jurisdiction of the IDA. So, we will do whatever we can to try to facilitate some better conversations in the community, but we don't have control over
But
it.
here's a plausible scenario, right? So Seneca Street ends at, Somerville?
Cherry Hill.
Cherry Hill. So between Cherry Hill and the fence, that could be deeded back to Mount Grey Cemetery. They can make that private property, and then Earl Martin would have to find a different way on and off his property.
Well, not to beat up the Seneca Street thing, because it's not really germane to the pilot program,
But it is.
the main depot entrance is what, half a mile from Seneca Street?
If,
That's what he had intended when he spoke to us way back when. That's what he said he had intended to have, was coming in the main entrance and then down Patrol Road. And that never happened.
Traffic mitigation will tell you that you should stay on the main highway, right? You don't want to go off on your side streets because that's a residential. The main street is Main Street.
there's no shoulders.
There's, down that road, I mean,
I'm sure you drive it perfect. So you're very versed in what's in it.
Yes.
In personal cars, as a fine. 130 cars can go up that street all day long, but it's the heavy traffic and the kids that flex in that street, and I don't know how many of the tractor trailers you follow out, they don't live out of the woods. It isn't the POVs.
Yeah, that stop sign seems to be optional.
It isn't the POVs, it isn't the employees coming and going every day. It's your deliveries and your stuff's getting hauled out is a problem.
we get back to the pilot.
So
system.
take-
Yes, we can.
So here we go. So right now we get phase 1 check.
Doesn't-
So, right, whatever it does matter. We get a check. Phase 1. Phase 2 starts, we're gonna set another check on top of phase 1 check.
Well, for the town's
Smaller,
purpose,
but-
you get one check for everything.
No, but I'm just saying.
It's
But
never
yes,
together, right?
he
Right, the
gets an
check.
itemized bill essentially of phase 1 amount,
Right,
phase 2
Right,
amount.
that's what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
we're gonna get a phase 1 amount That could be 1,000. Phase 2 starts at $25, and we're just way up to, after 6 years, to $1,000. Let's just say that's the ramp up to this same level we're at today. If you do another program, that program starts out at $25. These are the numbers now. That starts at 25. So we have 1,000 and 25, and now 1,025 more. So that's 1,050. And then next year we get 1,000. Could be, or 5 years from now we could be getting 1,000 phase 1, 1,000 phase 2, and 1,000 for this new pilot. So we could get 3,000 as opposed to nothing on this other pilot. If you don't approve the pilot, we'll never see anything for that investment they're gonna make. We're never gonna see anything till 2041. 2041, the tax exempt status goes away for that whole place, or for that 75 acres. So, right, so we'll never get nothing on that unless we do a pilot. We'll never get a tax $1 on that $3 million investment. Until 2041, which is more than 12 years.
Possibly. It is, what I will say is, if there was a circumstance, because we take what we do very seriously, and so the IDA is trying to strike a balance of providing an incentive to a company to expand their business and to make that business viable. We are also trying to balance bringing in as much tax revenue as we can for the jurisdictions, because that is important. They provide public services with those that we all need in order to keep, living here and doing our jobs here. What I will say is, if for some reason our board decided that they did not want to provide a pilot incentive for this solar facility, we would work with the assessor and with the town and with our own legal counsel to try to figure out whatever avenues there would be to make sure that an improvement that is made on a tax exempt parcel that was not intended to be tax exempt, to try to ensure that that was paid for properly.
Okay, I understand.
I do not know if that is logistically possible or how to
That's a
go
good
about
answer
it.
right there.
That's what I'm trying to say is that, so.
But
without
we're
the
not
pilot-
trying to pull the wool over
No,
anybody's
what I'm
eyes.
saying to you is that without the pilot program, without it, there is probably a larger chance of getting nothing for that improvement
And that's what Mr.
without,
Love said.
until 2041. Because that's when the tax exempt status for the property goes away. Once that goes away, then
Give me
it's
the
assessed
information.
value.
Unless we would figure out a way to somehow
Right,
parcel
if
it
you
out
could-
and assign a value to it, which I
Right.
don't think would be a simple matter, but yes.
Right, and it
If we
could be
were
a
not
matter
able
that
to
takes
do
more
that,
than
you
12
would not
years.
get any additional
Right,
for
it
the,
could be a matter that takes more than 12 years.
could be.
So let's say.
Please don't jinx us.
But what I'm saying to you is that it could be a process, right? So
Yes,
I'm just trying to say that a pilot program is gonna start getting some type of revenue back based on what they expend at day one, as opposed to nothing without going through some kind of litigation or some kind of legal whatever to try to figure out a way to put a value to that, increased it, as, okay, it was tax exempt, but this was not the intended purpose of the tax exempt status when you started. Understand, but that takes time. So a pilot program, just, what it does is it puts money quicker in our pocket than 2041.
I mean, can you put it on a 6-year program versus a 12?
Yeah.
You're giving them 5 years of 10% valuation before, so for 5 years, the county's gonna get $2,000 for 5 years. And the local pilot's gonna get, or town around us is gonna get $1,100. That doesn't even pay for one town council's position.
The problem with that is though, we have to follow certain rules. on that.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Because we can't give somebody preferential treatment or else we'll get sued. So we have to sort of do the same thing for everybody. And, we make mistakes. We try to do the best job we can.
No, I'm
We're
asking.
people just like all of you. But
I understand, but could you do a 6 year?
I can't answer that
Okay,
because
so
we
that
have,
was my question.
we have an attorney that sits at all the meetings that answers those technical questions.
I mean-
Is it 12 years just a fixed number, or is it a fixed number that is worked for the county? Not saying it's a bad thing.
12 years is the number that we negotiated with Mr. Martin and settled on for this particular project because it's in alignment with what had already previously been negotiated for the rest of the parcel. And it was simpler to keep everything sort of the same. But to answer your question, hypothetically, we could have negotiated a 6-year, possibly, agreement.
A shorter term would make me in favor of, I'll say that.
Understood.
But to wait 5 or 6 years before you get more than what it costs to run a copy machine for a year to back to the municipalities is a little silly. I also understand what Mr. Lott said, that if you don't do it, you get nothing. But, I mean, you don't wanna step over dollars to pick up dimes, but if you have $1,000 on a budget level of a county and a town, you're essentially saying nothing. So, and then for 12 years, for 5 years, it's just a little bit. And preferential treatment, if you're not looking at every application as an individual, even if the same person, if Lot Farms puts in 10 applications, each one should be looked at as the application, not the person putting in for it.
And that's something, us as a board, we don't do that. We have staff that does it, and what they go through, they don't share with us.
And, you know, it needs to be looked at, like in this case, where you're in a town that has the third highest tax rate in Seneca County at $594,000. You're in a school district that's small. They're all small. Romulus is getting smaller every day. Earl Martin wants to do good faith. All right, here's another Earl Martin message. Have them reapply, do a shorter term on the pilot to ramp those payments up faster. He'd get a lot more support.
So if he doesn't get the pilots,
He will.
what's his plan B?
Like I said, we already own the equipment, so we're gonna continue with the permitting and everything.
So you're gonna go ahead without it, with it or without?
Right, but
That's what else we're gonna do, right? We're sitting on the money. Just like
Well,
we're sitting on the
actually,
sink,
go with
just like
it.
we're sitting on.
Go ahead with it without the pilot.
We're sitting on millions of dollars of equipment.
But you have to
we're not
understand.
making money.
You have to understand that if they proceed without the pilot, then we have to go through a whole lot of loopholes to try to get something through the IDA, because the IDA is telling us that, look, we realize that they're gonna put a lot of money into this project, and that's not what the tax exempt status dealt with at the beginning. Now you're making a major change, so we wouldn't see anything in tax-wise increase at all until 2041, when the tax exempt status finally expires for that 75 acres. You see what I'm saying to you? As I'm saying to you is that, yes, eventually we would get our money in one lump whack, but not until 2041.
the pilot will expire and Social Security is exhausted with 2041.
I'll be dead, I don't care.
Yeah, I don't know about 2041 from you. What I'm
We'll
saying
say
to you is
that you do
We'll go
currently
beyond.
get, okay, so Hillside is town of Varick, but the conservation area, I mean, we're talking, the whole depot is like 10,000 acres.
Right.
Mr. Martin's companies own about, what, 7,000 of that?
I think so.
We're talking about 75 acres that is tax exempt under a pilot agreement. Everything else is fully taxable and paid by the company to the town. And I don't mean to say that that should somehow discount, you know, the conversation and the concerns that you all are having about the duration of an agreement or how generous it is. But I think it's also important to keep in mind that is a lot of acreage there that is fully on the tax roll.
Right, but you also, and this isn't an IDA thing, this is an Ann-Mark and assessment thing. One of the
She
parcels
wants back,
is
yes.
at, and maybe they're all that way, but it's at 42%.
Your
So it's a $9 million total assessment, assessed at $4 million. That's a lot of commas and zeros that the tax base is losing out.
And my thing is, so there's two things. One, that 75 acres developed with this industrial complex basically on it is worth a lot more than a lot of those conservation acreage. I mean, you gotta have a lot of acreage that does nothing but sit there for an assessed value. I mean, it's not worth as much.
There's one parcel that
Yeah,
has,
it's undeveloped.
and it's, what does it say, it's 9 million, it's total value.
No, you're fine.
First of all, I just want to say, I'm sorry, I mean, you guys are like standing up there, it's like.
We do
we
not,
don't-
we do
don't
not
mean
take
it like that,
offense.
absolutely not.
We do not take offense to any of this.
That's-
We are here as public servants. We're, you know, here to, again, like I said, answer questions, take your concerns, because these are all very valid, so ask away.
So the agreement you have with Seneca Dairy Systems, or
Yes.
potential agreement, have you built in recapture provisions, or that is just something that's available to you?
We have to have recapture provisions in every agreement.
Okay.
We have been, so IDAs have had a very long period of time where New York State has put increasing regulation and oversight on us. Our first, one of the first projects that ever had a recapture agreement and clawbacks in place was Del Lago. That was one of the first in the state, and right around 2015, 2016 is when New York State started requiring that. So every single project that we have approved since then has clawbacks and recapture agreements.
Okay, I just was curious about that.
Yes.
I'm assuming that Mr. Martin was the one interviewed for this article in the paper,
Interview, right?
I do not know.
has his name on it.
Yeah, but that's an old picture from the Romulus Firehouse way back when.
Well,
we
where
first
would,
went to
where would
the
they get the
property.
information
He did
about the
not look at
project?
us.
So our application and everything is obviously public information and is on our website. I do not know if Dave Shaw spoke with Mr. Martin or someone else from the company.
believe so.
He tends to reach out for a lot of stories by email if he reaches out at all, or he'll just take it from whatever is publicly available.
Okay, well, in this article, going back to jobs for the area, it says the solar project would not result in any new jobs at Seneca Dairy.
Correct. So
Direct.
we cannot double count our projects. So because we have an agreement and we are tracking that agreement with Seneca Dairy for the galvanizing plant, all of those jobs are attributed to the galvanizing plant. Solar and battery facility does not have the kinds of requirements for manpower to oversee the facility, and this is common even in like a solar developer coming in. There's hardly any job creation.
Yeah, 'cause it's transient.
So we can't double count what has already been promised under a previous agreement.
Like
That
another
would be
maintenance guy,
disingenuous of
you
us.
know,
Right.
Am I hiring a maintenance guy?
But once again, this is all benefiting Mr. Martin. Everything you do benefits him. Where does the town come in for benefits on this? There's no jobs. There's a lot of traffic. There's a lot of noise. I mean, it's 24/7 sometimes. They work all night long sometimes. And the
7 to
residents are
5.
getting this.
7 to 5 are business hours.
Well, what's all the noise at night then? Because
It may not, it may not be
No.
that,
Exactly,
but it's not from Seneca Dairy.
it is.
It's not.
Because I live just a stone's throw away from it, and that's where it comes
They might
from.
use the same street.
So, you
That's
know,
the
it's,
problem, that street.
once again, there's no benefits to the town or the residents.
I mean, the benefit is the company is continuing to do business here and employing and, using local labor.
Well,
And is paying, and I don't wanna say paying taxes because we're talking about a pilot agreement, but it is essentially a tax payment. So
and
I do
if the
appreciate-
as late as 2041, there is a potential significant benefit because any improvements would then become taxable.
yes,
Still
But
also
that's
need-
still a long ways away.
Well, because
Several
of-
months and they're retired come 2041.
You're never retired.
I'm Tom Bouchard, I'm on the Town Romulus Planning Board, and, I gotta admit, my head's swimming with all this stuff about pilot. And so I wanna pivot to, talking a little bit about the solar project. How large is the project that you're proposing to build? How many megawatts?
So 2 megawatts
2 megawatts?
Yeah.
Okay.
of solar, yeah.
Okay, which is, as you're probably or maybe not aware, it's just under the 2.5 megawatt threshold that would require, ORSIS review, Office of Renewable Energy and Siting.
Not aware, no.
No, okay. Are you aware that the town has put in a, 1-year moratorium
Yes.
on large-scale solar development? Okay. Are
We'll be
you
back
aware
next
that this has been in the works for, I don't know, Janet could probably give a better idea. Since last year that we were hearing little bits and pieces about this development, that it would be, do-it-yourself on-site, project, and it never came to the planning board for review. You aware of that?
Am I aware of the moratorium, or am I aware of the project start date when we submitted to the planning board?
Okay.
No, I'm asking you, clarify.
Well, it started, probably back in, I'm gonna say November,
Yeah, November
November 25.
Talking, the more,
That-
the
that-
moratorium.
No, not the
No,
moratorium.
no, that,
Oh,
that
my
you,
project.
that initially,
Yes,
initially it was proposed that you were gonna come to the board, the planning board for seeker and approval.
yes.
And that never happened because the application wasn't, complete.
We had delays, yes.
You had delays.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, manufacturers were changing, things were changing.
The other thing I'm interested in hearing about is you quote unquote said you had equipment on the ground
Yes, delivered, yep.
delivered, ready to go.
No,
You're ready to put them in.
well, not necessarily no, but it's delivered.
Okay. The other question I had regarding this is, these are gonna be battery storage units, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What precautions are you taking or have taken or will take, for, possible fire suppression?
It's all built into the units. And and you can review that during the, cause we're gonna do everything legally and get all the permitting required.
Well, this, I mean, I know this is separate from the main emphasis of this purpose
They all
of
have
the
all
hearing
the
tonight
fire
was pilot.
suppression.
Nonetheless, it's the other side of it that is of,
Yeah.
I think
We have the
utmost
most to lose
importance.
for that, right? We have
What's
the mo-
that?
We have the most to lose. So of course, we're not gonna put a system in that's not UL certified and has the appropriate safety precautions.
The other thing on the planning side of this, because I think it's important to note, is while we are doing the public hearing tonight as the IDA for the possible incentives of this project, our board cannot consider approving anything until everything is done with the permitting and the state environmental quality review with the town. So
And I'm
this
just
is,
saying
you
that
know,
has
one
to-
part of the process, but all of that still needs to be done.
Right. That hasn't
Certainly we can
happened, and
talk
that's-
about it and all of that tonight, and that is, fine to ask
Well,
questions,
that's why
but
it was
we
odd
won't
that-
be able to move forward until everything is
Yeah.
in alignment and done legally and properly as it
Yeah,
should be.
I get that, sir. What was odd is that we have known that this has been in the works for a while. And then all of a sudden, it's like, IDA is getting involved, and it's like, where did that come from? So,
We've been having discussions since the same time that you guys were.
There's a change.
Our projects can take a long time sometimes before
Uh-huh.
an
Well, I guess-
application
I
gets
guess
submitted
there's-
and before any of this happens, because the company has a lot of work and preparation to do with their
sure.
budgeting and estimates and, starting to go through
Just
their
trying to figure out where
process.
the communication breakdown
Really,
was.
all of this should have been
What's
to
a
the town
large scale
planning board.
solar project?
They do
that's
their
on
thing, and that goes to the
qualifies
college, and then it goes to
large
you.
scale
So I
solar?
think
Right.
your presentation is
It's
kind of skipping a few cogs.
We
2.5 or.
We work simultaneously with them, and we try to do that on purpose, because we're here trying to facilitate business.
One conversation.
We do not want to
More clear on large scale. solar.
hold up somebody's development. Our process takes,
Yeah.
on average, 3 months to go through IDA approval.
It's like Horace, you can fight them all you want, they're gonna go.
Yep, I mean, we, in our projects, if they're much more complicated, can drag on beyond that, but we always try to do things simultaneously with when the town and the county are working through the planning and permitting process, because we don't wanna be the cause of, a 2 or 3 month delay on a company beginning construction, when our goal here is to incentivize and attract business to the area and incentivize business to expand in the area. So we would never, ever do approval of something before we are able to, or before the approvals are in place, but we can still work at the same time, so that a company isn't taking a whole year to get through, because they've got a few months of planning approval, and then a few months of IDA, and then, whatever else is possibly on top of that.
Addresses solar, we have a solar law from that election.
Yes.
That's why it's.
Is this derived from supply issues?
So we have to have time to just.
Why we're doing it?
Yeah.
support clean energy, because we couldn't get the gas line, yeah, just resilience, controlled energy costs, I mean, all those reasons mostly policies.
Because we have so
Yeah.
mainly
Labor and,
so they start.
power are most.
I mean, everybody here has seen their NICEAG bills, right, over the past couple of years. I think in some ways we would all be tempted to do things to control our energy costs, you know?
Yeah, I knew that.
What
but I was
upsets
wondering if that
a
was
lot
the
of
same
people
thing.
is this
Yeah.
massive
Our
solar
large scale costs are
farm.
much smaller.
It's putting power on the grid, and our bills keep going up, so the people that are paying for these subsidies are not benefiting a damn thing about the
Yeah,
solar.
the whole New York State, we could have a whole other public hearing probably on the New York State energy system. I mean, we're not necessarily the experts in that, but we certainly deal with it closely enough that it is not single-handedly solar that is making anything more expensive for anybody. It's a whole combination of things. It's, state regulations that are pushing the whole state and industry toward electrification. It is the decommissioning of other power sources with long lead times to bring solar facilities online. I mean, all of these things are compounding, and you're seeing that in your energy bill. You're seeing old infrastructure and the fact that everybody's been kicking the can down the road on investing in and paying for upgrades. And now you're seeing, these power surges and things that are very expensive to remediate. So it's not any one thing, but sometimes it seems like that because, solar becomes a lot more prevalent at the same time all these other things are happening. And that's just largely a factor of the politics and the policy that's happening at the state level that's pushing all of these.
If I could clarify, the moratorium that the town has enacted is designed to, give the planning board and the town board, year to address the fact that we need to update our solar zoning. We don't have it in place in our zoning as such. We're relying on a local law from 2018 that is outdated. And so that's the purpose of the moratorium. And personally, I am not opposed at all to residential solar installations. That makes tremendous amount of sense to me. I think we need to be real careful about the,
And in regards to this project and the moratorium, so this project is subject to the moratorium, to be clear. Local law was passed on June 17th. By the town board. It is for 1 year, but it has also been conveyed by the chairperson of the planning board that under local law, there is a process for the company to apply for a variance to try to move forward with the project while the moratorium is in place, and the company is working on that currently. And that is one of the reasons why we decided to still have this public hearing tonight, instead of canceling it and delaying for a future date, because they are still working through and trying to get something done.
Is this the
on a
county
sooner
planning
time.
board?
No, town,
It's your local.
Our town?
your town planning board, yes.
Yeah. Cause
Yeah,
it hasn't been.
comes out, yeah.
Yes,
We
it
haven't
has come
come
to
to
us.
the county.
Okay, it's in place as of June 17th. Yeah. Remember?
Now, I'm
I do
curious,
now.
did you ever consider drilling a gas well there? Did you talk to anybody that, because there is gas in that area?
I don't know,
Natural
I
gas.
guess, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and it's.
Sally, I
I
did
grew up
talk
with
to Earl
gas
about
wells.
that.
I-
With the fracking laws in New York, you can't drill a well and frack,
Thank you very
so there's no way to get gas there.
Really?
With the laws in New York, you cannot.
No, I think they changed the laws.
No, the moratorium on fracking is still.
Really? That's what it is?
It's actually not even a moratorium on fracking. They stopped the moratorium a couple years ago and codified it in law. Hydro fracking is banned under New York state law now, not just a moratorium with an
Okay,
exploration.
so you can do it.
No drilling gas wells.
Okay. I grew up with gas wells and we had our gas well on our
It's just
farm.
like
Mhm.
delay,
And
year
supplied
delay,
the
year
village
delay,
for
year
no
delay.
gas.
Yeah.
It was a nice gas well.
Does anybody else have any other questions or comments? If not, it is
Can I just
7, yeah.
Statement? Just, I wanna say that, you know, we are board members, we're just members of the community too, and we appreciate your input. And that's why we're here, is to hear what you all have to say.
And we will pass it on to the other directors that are out here tonight, and there'll be a discussion. We won't just rubber stamp this through. It'll be discussed.
Well, and I would hope that they would relook their traffic pattern so that they're not going through,
Yeah, but that,
single streets, with the truck traffic, because they can go a
we're
different
looking at
direction.
a pilot on the solar, not what they do with trucking and
Well,
stuff.
but
Yeah.
that's an issue.
Well,
with
stay out of that.
investments.
I hear you, I'm gonna look into it.
But
That's
it's,
an
that's
issue
totally
with
separate from the.
residents.
Yeah.
And safety.
That's a big issue.
It's a lot of,
Yeah.
We will do whatever we can to facilitate those conversations and make sure that your concerns are heard. And so if there are no more comments or questions, I want to thank you all so much for your time.